Anthony Melchiori, special live show coming at you from Washington, D.C. Post-election wrap-up. How you doing?
Good. And the reason we have a special live show right now, we're going 50 minutes earlier than normal, because we have somebody really important to the hospitality industry that gave us 40 minutes. We happen to be in Washington. He's in Washington right now. And so we said, we'll make it happen for you. So,
all right, well, we better get out because we got 26 minutes left. Here we go.
I'm Anthony. Welcome to No Vacancy Live. That's my friend Glenn.
You're watching the #1 show in hospitality. All right, everybody, welcome. So our mystery guest was actually in that montage. Who could it possibly be? Mr. Chip Rogers, CEO of the American Hotel and Lodging Association. Chip, big special thank you for being with us here today, right now, on a Monday, right after our president-elect was declared. Thank you so much.
Guys, I am so honored. There's no other show I'd rather be on than yours. And I'm sure you've talked about it already today. What a beautiful day in Washington, D.C. The only thing prettier than the weather here is the stock market this morning.
wait, how's the stock market doing? I didn't look.
Well, there was a big announcement. The Pfizer BioNTech first batch of results came back, and the market shot up 1,500 points. And last I checked, it was up about 1,100.
Well, guess who bought Pfizer this morning?
The efficacy seems to be over 90% right now in the first trial runs. That is a really encouraging thing. And to put that into perspective, there are a lot of others out there. I think measles, mumps is a little bit over 90%. So that's pretty good.
I woke up. I couldn't sleep last night. I woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I saw that, and I said, "Let me go buy a few shares." I literally bought like 4 or 5 shares just to see, out of curiosity. And so I'm curious to see what the stock price. I think I bought it at 40. So hopefully it's at 130,000 right now.
All right. So Chip,
Yes, sir.
We have a president-elect. What now, from the hospitality industry's point of view, are you gearing up for at this very moment?
So it's a very unique situation. You do have a president-elect because the races have been called in his favor, and he would appear to have over 270 electoral votes, which is what he needs.
Mm-hmm.
What you don't have is the person whom he defeated having conceded yet.
Right.
And so there are a number of lawsuits that the president and his team have filed, and we'll see how those work through the court. Hopefully they're done expeditiously. No matter what side of the aisle that you're on, no matter what, there's 2 things I'll say about this election with respect to the president. What we're going through now is very unique, and I think we should all agree, let's get to the end of it quickly. If there's a problem with the voting and there's something needs to be fixed, then fix it, but be done with it. If there wasn't, and President-elect Biden is ultimately to become the president, let's go ahead and do that. And the second thing I'll say is, no matter who wins the race, and it clearly looks like Biden has won the race, as Americans, we should all support him being successful. That's one of the most frustrating things I've ever heard in past elections, where when one side doesn't win, they want the person to fail. We should never want our president to fail. No matter who it is. We should never want our president to fail.
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of that chatter going around 4 years ago at this point. But we have a chance to start new. We have a chance to start fresh. So, Chip, I got to ask you, what does this mean for the hotel industry? We've been talking about passing another set of stimulus. Is that something that we can expect before Inauguration Day, after Inauguration Day? And I guess the other thing is, while we're dealing with these lawsuits and stuff, does that make the transition more difficult? And will that affect your ability to get stuff done for our incredible business?
The first answer is both. And what I mean by both is I think we will have something during the lame duck session, and it might be just what they are calling the skinny version or the PPP only version. And for our industry, that would be fantastic.
Right.
And the PPP we're looking at, of course, he's adjusting my mic. I'm sorry.
It's all good.
The PPP we're looking at are for those businesses who have suffered 25% or more revenue loss, which would be virtually every hotel in America. They would have an opportunity to get a second round of the money. And the other parameters will probably be very similar. I then think there'll be a larger package dealing with all sorts of things like financing, Main Street lending, or some version of Main Street lending, which, by the way, remember, that ends at the end of this calendar year. So if you don't have a Main Street lending loan, and of course nobody in the hotel business does, you're not going to get one under the current program. They'll have to revise it and do something else. I think that will happen sometime in the early part of the next quarter, late January, early February.
There was an article I actually sent it to Glenn over the weekend, and it basically calls for hotel business going away. It's that 99% of hotels are going out of business. It was the worst article I've ever read about a truly yelling fire in a movie theater. It was just, I don't know where they're getting their data. The data, some of it made sense, but I think they just went way over the edge. I mean, is 99% of the hotels closing? Are we done? The hospitality and travel, are we done? Are we going to be riding horses around the world? What are we doing? Like, it was such a ridiculous article.
Yeah, it is a ridiculous article because you've already seen in places where the virus occurred, and then they got it under control, especially in China, where the business is back almost to where it was.
Yep.
So it's a silly thing. Perhaps that was I don't know, Airbnb investors that were writing that article.
But do you know the article I'm talking about?
I have not seen it. No.
It was insane. But anyway, and it was a legitimate news organization. It was a business. It wasn't red or blue. It was just, I think somebody was just drinking the Kool-Aid and it was the wrong color Kool-Aid. But so at the end of the day, whether the Senate stays Republican, whether the election gets verified and everything goes forward with a Democrat as president, where do you think we are a year from now? And one of the things, we're going to have an expert on Friday talking about the coronavirus.
And that would be Dr. Osterholm has just been named to President-elect Biden's task force on coronavirus.
So do you think that getting the coronavirus under control and getting under 100,000 cases a day and people starting to mitigate it in their areas, do you think that's part and parcel of the industry opening it up?
Oh, there's no question about that. Yeah. So three things at play here. You have the vaccine, and we had the great news this morning on the Pfizer BioNTech results. You have the therapies, which we've actually had good news on that for quite some time. Remdesivir and other things have been bringing the death rate down for those people who actually have the virus. So that's been happening. Hasn't got a lot of attention, but it's certainly been happening. And then I think for our industry, the most important thing here in the short term is the instant, reliable, inexpensive testing. And that is so important, that you can have instant results that are reliable, 98% or better, and that it's inexpensive, less than $5 per test.
So let's talk about that. That's what happened in Italy, as I understand it. They started testing everybody, and it went from 500 cases to 35,000 cases in like 2 days. What was that about? Because if that happens in America, we'll have over 1 million cases in a day.
Well, that doesn't mean that we don't have 1 million cases now. It's just we haven't been recording those cases, right, Chip?
I could not agree more with what you just said, Glenn. This is so important, and it's really, I think, I don't want to say disinformation, but it's the way that the media has portrayed this all along. And I'm not saying this is not a political thing. This is not a red-blue thing, but they talk about testing. Well, you only know the results of a test if you take a test.
Right.
If you don't take a test, you don't know the results. That doesn't mean, like you said, that the virus is non-existent. If we stopped testing tomorrow, we couldn't declare victory and say no one has coronavirus, right?
Yeah.
So if you test more, that's only information with which you can make proper decisions. And so having more testing, quicker testing, I think is really important to our industry. Think about getting a test and getting the results back in, let's say, 3 minutes, 98% accuracy, and it costs you $4. If you're able to do something like that, people can get on airplanes with no fear. People can come to hotels. People can be in this restaurant with the place packed with no fear whatsoever, if you can do that. And we're on the verge of being able to do that right now.
Yeah, and that will take out the stress from so many American families. It's touched everybody. And so that will, and then you can make your own informed decision. We're all guessing at this point.
Chip, I got to ask you, when we're moving forward, it seems that Biden is probably going to do a mask mandate, do some other things in order to create a cohesive national plan. If you were to create a national plan that balanced the needs of the hospitality industry with the health crisis that we're going on, what would that look like to you, sir?
Well, look, the problem that he's going to run into, and I can't sit here and tell you that I have the plan, but the problem that he's going to run into is that we are a federalist nation. What that means is 50 individual states make the rules. So I remember hearing people clamoring about, why doesn't Trump pass a national ban? Well, he can't. He doesn't have the authority. That same lack of authority will extend to the Biden administration as well. He can't force the governors to do what he wants them to do in their states. Now, should he work with those governors and say, look, here's the plan that I have. Here's how we can all do it together at once and remove any concern or confusion among the American public. And will he get buy-in with that? Probably so, and probably more so than President Trump did, which was more of a hands-off approach. But he can't force, I'll just pick a random state.
Yes.
He can't force Indiana and the governor there, Eric Holcomb, who's a friend of mine, he can't say, Governor Holcomb, you must have a mask mandate. That he doesn't have that authority.
Right.
He should go to Eric Holcomb and say, look, the rest of us are doing this. This is what you should do.
Right.
We'll see. And I'm not picking on Eric. I just use him.
No, totally.
But do they have some kind of course meaning the president, as far as holding funds?
You could.
Which is not cool, but
no,
that's a dangerous game to play.
And we saw that over the last 4 years, and it didn't get response as well from places like New York and California.
And I truly believe, like, the governors of each state should control the state in which how the people want it to be controlled, as long as it makes sense. So listen, at this point, you're seeing when President-elect Biden was announced, you saw thousands of people in the streets, and no one was making a big deal about it, but they all had masks on. Almost 99.9% of the people had masks on. So I think if you wear a mask, we can get back to business relatively quickly, and especially when the testing comes and the vaccine comes. So I think the next 12 to 18 months, we're going to get back on track, and hotels like that we're sitting in right now, the Riggs Hotel, they're going to be full again. And I really do think when people say, well, people are going to wear masks and people are going to be comfortable traveling, and people aren't going to be comfortable flying, even with a vaccine, even with testing.
Yeah.
BS. People
Agreed.
forget everything. I mean, I can forget my name. As a matter of fact, I forgot my middle name. I don't even have one, and I forgot what it was. It's just ridiculous to me, based on, if you live on this earth and you know human behavior, we don't remember who won the Super Bowl last year. We're going to remember that we were wearing masks. I don't think that's going to happen. I really don't. And some people are going to wear masks on planes now. We didn't wear them before. I might be one of them. I don't know. But I'm not going to be walking down the street with a mask once there's a vaccine, and I'm not going to walk in a restaurant with a mask. And so I think that people are really overblowing that, giving us too much credit that we have great memories and we're all going to be walking around uptight. I don't think that's the case.
Yeah, I don't think we have great memories. Who are you again over there? So, Chip, there is a psychology here that's going on. Do you think Americans are getting closer to actually traveling as opposed to talking about travel?
Look, I think that there's no question the election being behind us, or eventually will be behind us here in the next few days.
Yep.
There's no doubt that helps. The psychological benefit of having an announcement like we had today from Pfizer BioNTech is huge, because so much of it is people saying, look, I don't have the virus. I don't want to get the virus. I have a fear.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're saying, well, there's a vaccine out there that appears to be working.
Mm-hmm.
And so psychologically, people start saying to themselves, what's the next phase of my life? Well, the next phase of your life is getting out of your house.
Right.
Getting back to traveling.
Do you think
again.
they'll mandate it? You think they'll mandate a vaccine? You think that's a good idea?
They won't mandate it. I mean, I'm not even sure how that would be enforceable.
Well, they mandate a lot of vaccines now when kids are in school. Everybody has to get, polio.
That's true. They do say it for school, but you could choose to homeschool and not do it. I've never been in a workplace where they require something like that. So I think that while there are some strata of society you'll be able to make forward mobility, we have to create a plan that gives people confidence. And I think one of the things that we don't have as society right now is an overwhelming confidence in authority when it comes to how we feel that we're going to do these vaccines. So hopefully we'll get past that and get everybody on board.
Well, I got a deal for you, Glenn.
Yes.
I'm absolutely taking the vaccine. The second you take it, I'm taking it. And if you're okay, I'm taking it. But you have to take it first.
I will have to see what science says and what the efficacy of it is, and then I will make my choice. But I am not the type of person that says I'm not going to take it under any circumstances.
Listen,
I just want to know.
I never took a flu shot, not because I didn't think I can get the flu. I just didn't really think it was that serious, and I'm not going to take a flu shot. This year I took a flu shot. I'm taking a vaccine. Are you taking one, Chip?
Well, I think the jury's still out on that.
Okay.
Look,
all right.
if it's proven to work,
That's right.
Yeah, and I think everyone's going to. I think everyone's going to wait and see.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that does make sense. So, Chip, I'm curious as to how you do your job under a Republican administration like we have right now compared to a Democratic administration that's going to be coming in. You've worked in this side of the business with both of those things. So how does the approach different? What is the messaging that you have to send? Because if we're just going to draw conclusions, The Republicans are usually more business friendly. The Democratic side is usually not as business friendly. So, as it change your approach, what are some of the opportunities and challenges that you see going forward from 2021 on until we have another election in 2 years?
So look, we're a nonpartisan organization. We're
That's
going
right.
to support whoever's supporting our issues. And not all of our issues are directly tied to what you would call exactly, there's not necessarily a business link to everyone. I mean, there's a link. But when you're talking about international travel, Republicans and Democrats might look at that differently than they would corporate income tax rates, right?
Right.
And so you've got to be able to work on both sides of the aisle on really every issue. And then I would point out somebody like a Congressman Ami Bera, Dr. Ami Bera, who is a hotelier. His entire family's in the business, and he's a Democrat. And then you got a guy like Ralph Norman, who's a hotelier from South Carolina that's a Republican. I mean, those are the people that we're going to lean on. But I think it's important to remember these election results were pretty stunning. You had not a single Republican incumbent in the House of Representatives lose. And I think that's the first time that's ever happened.
Wow. And they were able to take back some seats. The Republicans, as of today, have an 8-seat disadvantage right now, but they closed the gap. How much was it? How much is it today before the new Congress takes over?
Well, they're not done counting yet. There's still some seats out there, but I think once they get done with this process, you're probably looking at the Democrats having about a 10-seat advantage.
Okay.
That's the closest Congress is going to be in a long, long time on the House of Representatives side. On the Senate side, you've got the two races in Georgia.
Yeah. Wow.
That if the Democrats won both of them, you could have a 50-50 Senate. Now, they probably won't win both of them, but even if they win one, lose one, you're talking about somewhere between 52 and 48 to 50-50. Right. So the Senate is almost equally divided. The House is almost equally divided. We had a presidential race that was almost right down the middle, equally divided. I mean, if you look at some of the states that Biden won, it was so very close. And you put all that into the mix, what you realize is that, yes, our ideologies seem to be pretty far apart these days. But the number of Americans that fall into those two camps is almost equally divided, which tells us we've got to work together on the middle. There's got to be 10, 20, 30 major issues that a vast majority of Republicans and Democrats can agree on. And I just hope after the nastiness of this election, and let me just give you one example. I don't want to go on too long here, but as I walk around this beautiful city that we call our home office of Washington, D.C., and I see all these windows boarded up, it's disgraceful, it is disgusting, and as Americans, it's embarrassing. We should never, ever, ever, ever accept the fact that an election should turn into violence. I was here 4 years ago. I was here 4 years before that and 4 years before that. This should never happen. We should never have an election where people say, if the results don't go my way, I'm going to burn things and tear down things. That should never be the case. And we've got to come together on many of these issues in the middle that we know we can agree on.
Right. And I don't think any of the issues we're talking about are anything that's strange or weird. People on both sides just want what's best for their family. And one of the things that I'm looking forward to getting to is worrying about my business, worrying about my family, and worrying about the hospitality industry. And whatever happens in Washington, work it out. We have a secret room here that Chip, you can bring him down to the secret room that nobody knows, slap him around a little bit, get them both on one side. And it's about the American family. You know, I posted something the other day and I said, one America, and everybody went after me. The Reds went after me, Blues went after, everybody went after me. And I was just like, I said, one America. Like I said before in another show, you know, when I was in the military and they handed out bullets, not that I saw a lot of them, but they weren't red bullets or blue bullets. They were red, white, and blue bullets. And that is what we need to come to. We have different opinions. You and I have different opinions, I'm sure, whether it be baseball teams, whether it be where we live, whether it be, everybody has different opinions. But as Americans, the number one priority is that this soil that we live on is ours, and we've got to protect that. Last night when I was walking around Washington, D.C., and I couldn't even get within 2 blocks of the White House.
That's right.
And I saw all these boards up, and it felt, I got to be honest with you, I almost cried. I cried, one, because I felt relief because it didn't happen. On the other hand, it was like, I felt exactly what you said. It's like, did we really do this? Like every single building was boarded up. The good news is last night when I was in my room, the local news said that there's going to be dumpsters all over Washington, D.C. today that are being rented by the government, the local government, and all the boards can go in there and they'll pick them up. And I thought that was good because the quicker these boards come off, and they got to come off quick, because this city looks like it just went through a war.
Now, I went to Black Lives Matter Plaza yesterday afternoon to do my journalistic duty of seeing what the scene was like. And the best thing that I saw there, Chip, was a whole lot of cops lined up against the fence, bored and looking at their phones. I thought that was a real good indication on how they're feeling right now.
But, and Chip, you said something I think is important. You said, if your side loses, you shouldn't tear down your city. And I understand completely, 100%. I can't agree with that more. But that goes to how divisive and how important these issues that we're talking about are. And whether it be whatever side of the aisle you're on, we've got to really do the people's work, period, end of story.
Yeah.
And, I have a lot of views. But one of the views that I know when people are working, people don't have time to worry about and complain because they're working. And we just got to put people back to work. We got to put people back to work in the hospitality industry. And not only does it financially hurt your family, but mentally it hurts your family because you start getting depressed. If you don't have a job and you can't afford to feed your family, that's a problem. So the number one job right now is to get people back to work, period, end of story. I don't care who you voted for.
Amen to that. It's interesting, Anthony, because if you take the people, not in this city, but just the people out in normal America, and you ask them who they vote for, they may be passionately on one side or the other. But at the end of the day, that's just their politics. What matters to them most is their family. And They've got to have those jobs, and they've got to know that their future is secure, because when you don't have that sense of security is when you make poor decisions. And those poor decisions can impact everybody that's around you, particularly your family. And that's why we've got to get back to financial security. We've got to get back to job security. We've got to get back to what you said, Anthony, that is people traveling again, enjoying the world. On a global scale, the greatest thing that could ever happen to the United States or any company is international travel, because it brings us all together. We have a better understanding. There's that great stat I like to throw out, and that is people that have never visited the United States, only 20% of them have a positive view of the U.S. Right. People that have visited the United States, 80% of them have a positive view of the U.S. That's not red or blue. That's, like you said, it's red, white, and blue. Let's have people come here. Let's Americans go everywhere around the world. We bring people together, and it works.
If you want to bring people together, tell them Monday Night Football is going to be canceled, and you will see everybody come together, and we will all be Americans, and everybody will forget about everything else.
Well, maybe tonight's game between the Patriots and Jets should be canceled. But other than that,
it should be canceled.
As a Jets fan, I can agree with that 100%. And speaking of rioting, I'd like to get back to the good times of rioting, where you only riot when your team wins the Super Bowl. I mean, that's what we got to get back to.
Yeah, but Chip, I just want to take a second on behalf. I've said this before, but I think, Chip, is this the first time I met you in person?
No, we've met before. Where were we? BDNY.
Okay. Yeah. But what you've done and what your team has done, and everyone in your that is working on behalf of the hospitality industry, I mean, I can't believe you're not exhausted. I don't believe you didn't crawl here, because I can't imagine the phone calls you're getting in the middle of the night. I can't imagine the people that want something from you, and you have to come and talk on this show, or it'd be all the other shows, and you do a lot of shows, and really keep it professional and really just push for our industry. And we'll be forever grateful. And I think you're going to have your name etched in a big rock somewhere in Mount Rushmore.
I don't need, nor do I want that. But
I know you don't.
But I do want this industry to get back up on our feet. I mean, Anthony, you know these stories. Glenn, you know them as well. I mean, the three of us could sit here and talk about families that we know in this industry who have for generations built a business that they are now either losing or on the verge of losing. And it hurts your heart. I mean, Glenn, Anthony, you talked about seeing those boards up around the city, and that is painful. But me seeing personal friends of mine who are in this industry that I know have put 30 and 40 years of everything they had. They risked everything to build a business. They took the chance. They lived in these businesses many times or in the hotels. And now to see so much of that wiped away, that is a painful, painful process. That's why we've got to get back so fast.
And what pisses me off really, really deeply is when people root for those people. It's like, well, they have a lot of money and they have hotels and it's good for them. No, it's not good for the housekeeper. It's not good for the front desk person. It's not good for the bellman. What are you talking about? This is about American families. This is about the American dream. So if you're against that, then you're against America. And that is just a ridiculous sentiment. And I've heard that a lot, unfortunately. And all of us have had people that we look up to in this industry real great women and men who've built, whether it be their careers or whether it be their own businesses, cry. When you see a 50, 60-year-old man or woman that you know has worked their butts off, absolutely lose control and cry, it's literally, I've never felt that. It's happened to me a couple of times so far in the last 8 months with friends and people I know. And I don't know what to do with that. It's almost scary. It scares. I almost run away from it because it scares the crap out of me. That's what this is about. This is about people putting back to work, and that's it. To see this business that the hotel I'm in right now, the Riggs Hotel, open up. They put tens of millions of dollars into this hotel, bring it back to what DC needs, and have a beautiful hotel like this that used to be a bank with all this history, and do different suites, commemorating first ladies, and this needs to be busy. This needs to get people like the young lady I saw at the front desk who's 22 years old, who's running the front desk. She needs to be elevated. She needs to stay in this industry. The bellman that I was talking to, Terry, this morning, when I said, Terry, you're going to stay in the business? His eyes lit up. And he says, I love this business. He goes, next week, I'm going to train at the front desk. I'm so excited. That's what we need to do.
Amen. And you're right about this hotel. You're right about everything. This hotel is spectacular. And so those who visit Washington, D.C., and hopefully you do so soon and often. Check this place out. It's gorgeous. The location is as good as you're going to find anywhere. Beautiful place.
Yeah, absolutely. Chip, I know you'd have to leave at 11:40. It's 11:40. So how about some final words from you, sir?
Look, it's all going to work out. And I know that sounds so simplistic, but the reality is that this country's overcome even bigger challenges than this.
That's right.
We had a civil war. We had global wars. We had a stock market crash that brought despair, probably as big or bigger than this. We're going to get past this. My only concern is this whole red-blue thing has got to stop. We are Americans first, Americans last. Somebody who doesn't agree with you politically is not your enemy.
That's right.
What did President Reagan say? Your 10% enemy is also your 90% friend, or something along those lines.
Yeah.
So let's focus on the things that we agree on, and let's work together towards those ends.
And let's talk to each other, because when you talk to each other, and that's why podcasting and what we're doing is so important, is because there's no tweets. It's like I sent out a little thing about One America and it just went off the rails. When people talk in front of each other, you can have the angriest. I'll give you a real quick example. I know you got to go. There's two enemies in the poker world, and they got together and they were going after each other on Twitter. They got together on Go Poker, and they came together and they did a poker tournament. And the commentators were like, are they best friends? Like 10 minutes before they walked in the room, they were tweeting that the other person doesn't know how to play poker, and they literally were in the room together and they walked away friends. That's what we need to do. We just need, because when you're on Twitter and you're on Instagram and all social media, that's not conversation.
No, as a matter of fact, I just had to delete a comment that was not in the spirit of this entire conversation. So let's all come together. Let's not be separate. We have common goals as Americans. We have common goals as hoteliers, and we can achieve anything as long as we work together. Unfortunately, have a Chip on our side over there.
And I'll always be on your side. Gentlemen, thank you so much.
That's why we have a chip on our shoulder.
Right. Thank you.
Hey, so just a quick,
yeah,
that made me laugh, Anthony, and I was actually at a cross country meet this past Saturday, and they put the chips in the shoes, right? And then after the kids run, they have to take them off. And I'm walking with my wife, and we're passing the little place where you turn them back in. It says chip return. I'm like, here's your chance.
All right.
See you later.
All right, mic drop. All right, Anthony, another great show. I love that we went live. I love that it all worked out. So thank you so much, Chip. All right, let's get out of here. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. He's got to run.
Okay, so let me say, I want to say something.
Yeah.
You said something, somebody wrote something disparaging.
Yeah.
Instead of doing that, why don't you do this? Why don't you work the person that did that, or other people that do that? Why don't you work towards what you want to do for this country? Why don't you work towards helping your community? Why don't you work towards your goals? If you don't like the way this is going to wind up, then go ahead and get your community to get together. So the next 4 years, when you're able to vote in 4 years, you vote and you try to get your candidate elected. Because saying curse words and saying nasty things gets nothing done. If it did, I would do it, but it gets nothing accomplished, because I'm from Brooklyn. I can curse better than most people.
Yes,
and I like the F word more than most people.
Oh, who doesn't?
But when you do this nonsense on social media. I always say, you'll never see me go after anybody on a text or social media. I'll call you up or knock or ring your bell and say, hey, let's talk.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And then it's up to you how the conversation goes. And that's what we need to do. We need to have real conversations, and we need to really push each other and hold each other accountable. So if you can do that, if you're spending 4 hours or 5 hours a day on social media, then there's something wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. And it doesn't mean, well, you know what? I don't have a job. Okay. You know what? I just saw something last night on social media where a gentleman was laid off from a trucking company. He was a driver, and he was making, I think he got paid 10 cents an hour for a mile, or 10 cents a mile. And, if you travel thousands of miles, you make some money. And he said, you know what? I sat home for 8 weeks and I worked really, really hard, and I got really, really upset. And I spent all of my money and all of my time doing one thing. And then he panned back, and there was a truck with his name on it and his son's name. It made me cry. Don't make me cry now. And he said, now I get paid 43 cents a mile.
Right.
And now my employer, and he showed the truck of his employer, is now my competitor. That's America.
Right. Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely terrific. I got to tell you, Anthony, being down here in DC, I feel good. I do. I felt like democracy is working. I felt pride being here. And it was really just great to walk around and go out to the Washington Mall and see the Capitol building and see the Washington Memorial Monument and see the Lincoln Memorial. Just awe-inspiring.
Yeah, it was. I've never felt. It felt like I had warm milk last night. I don't really like warm milk, but there's something comforting about it, and that's how I felt last night. It's like I really don't want warm milk, but because I don't know how I feel, and that's how I felt last night. I don't know how I really felt.
Right.
Because to see that we've come to what Chip said, we've come to a nation that we had to have fences built basically around all the important buildings, and we had to board up all of our buildings, and there were more police, and I'm sure there were National Guard and military. I am sure that our entire military apparatus and National Guard was on the precipice of pushing a button that said go against our own people because the riots, and we can't have that. So we would have to put those down. And it just to have that. And the good news about that is, if there's any good news, if you're a young person, you're 18, 19, 20, 21, it's the first time you're voting, you realize that your vote matters, and that whoever you want, that we have had the Civil War. We've had wars against our own people, whether it be the civil unrest you had in the 60s and the 50s and throughout our nation. It's so we have to come together, and we have to have conversations, because this great country can be taken away. And I think if anything we've learned that your vote matters, your voice matters. And the further you go away from that, the further you go away from America.
Yeah, absolutely true. All right, Michael, do we have a normal show time today too? Sort of. We recorded a whole show this morning. We're just turning that around. We're going to get it up and broadcast it ASAP.
But what we can do is, what time is it right now?
It's 11:47.
So what we can do is how you say you always want to do those shows that it's just me and you talking?
Mm-hmm.
So we can do that show and stay through the 12 o'clock hour for our regular, normally scheduled show if you want to, because I have a lot of stuff to talk about.
Oh boy. Sounds good. You want to start talking then?
Well, yeah, what I want to talk about is I want to talk about the process of people in America coming together and what that means. We have to allow the people that don't feel comfortable with how things went, we have to give them their voice.
Right.
And the people, so whether it be my voice, your voice, people have to be able to tell you how they feel. That doesn't mean we can start a civil war, but we have to be able to understand a lot of people have done a lot of great things for this country. There's people on the battlefield right now, okay, crapping in the helmet, trying to protect this American dream. And it's a disservice to them by what's happening in this country, and the person who's comfortable in their little room and they have their little Twitter account and they have their little Instagram account and they're like, I hate this and I hate that. I hate this. Right. Grab a gun, go overseas and fight the wars that millions of people have fought for this country. Those are weak people, and those people piss me off.
Wow. Powerful words, Anthony.
No, it just pisses me off.
No, it's true.
Because if you don't know what it's like you know, to fight for your country or to stand up for your country, and you think that your little tweet is going to change the way, you know how you change? You go and you peacefully protest. You go, you join the military. Okay, you join and you join your local community government for the people that you want to be in government. Okay, that's what you do. You're disciplined. Okay, your emotion doesn't get anything done. Discipline and read and learn about history. That's how you get things done. I don't mean to go off on a tangent, but you know, being here in Washington D.C. is really this is a powerful place.
Yeah, it really is. It feels really good to be here. All right, so we got a comment from Christy Poe. Goals can be achieved regardless of political climate. She's a duck dealer and has survived 15 years online in small online family business by way of good customer service, social media clubs, and working with industry experts. She watches trends and what people want and provide it. She changed her approach several times, fit her goals and meet customer needs, and expanded over the years. I think that's a good metaphor for the way we should all handle our businesses and our lives, Anthony.
You know what I love? Rubber duck business. If you look at anything, right? Like right now, I'm looking at drapery. I'm looking at beautiful plants. I'm looking at chandeliers, concrete. Everything is made by somebody, right? And so America is built on business. America is built on getting your butt out of bed and going to work.
Yeah.
And really, at some point, we don't care who's in the White House, right? We don't care who's in the Senate. What we care about is everybody's working, because the more you work, you know, the less problems you have. And the time you get home, you're exhausted.
Yeah, very, very true. And I do have hopes for the next administration that I won't have to think about who's in the White House every day, because hopefully it'll be just a lot calmer and we could get things done. Again, not a political statement, just more of of how things have been communicated.
Listen. You know, and when I'm running my businesses, I've sometimes have made sure that the environment around me is toxic. And it's like, what does that mean? It's like, well, it's toxic for a reason. I want to make it toxic so in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 6 weeks or 8 weeks, it's no longer toxic. But if you don't talk about the issues and you don't bring them up and you don't break some eggs and you don't make people angry and pissed off, sometimes, you know, you don't get change. Okay, so we did that. Okay, so now let's get real change.
Yeah, absolutely. I do hope we get some real change. I want to thank John Brinkman out there for saying that we have fantastic audio and very clear video today. That makes me feel really, really good, John, because, you know, we've been struggling to figure this all out. I'm not yet ready to declare victory, but I feel pretty good, Anthony.
Yeah, and you and David have worked very hard behind the scenes, and you guys get real nervous, and I get real pissed off when things don't go well. So we actually had this morning when we were doing, we did a taping in order to make sure that everything was done, and we were just going to post it at 12 o'clock. The problem was we did have problems for like 15, 20 minutes. We had to shut it down. We had to retape it. And so that, you know, we didn't have time to edit it to post it at 12. So we're going to post that a little bit later today after our producer has time to edit it. And now we went live with Chip just a few minutes ago because everything was worked out. So John, we take it seriously. Our show is becoming pretty relevant. And people expect us to have a professional show. And, you know, when this all happened 8-9 months ago, and we're sitting, you know, with our beards and our sweatshirts, you know, in our bedrooms, that was acceptable because the world felt like it was, you know, like we just got to get information out there. But now I think we have an obligation to make sure that these shows are to quality, because your time is valuable and we don't want to give you our problems.
Yeah, so that's absolutely right. Although when I do have a misfire, I appreciate all the love and support that we get from you guys, because that's what a community is all about, supporting us in the not so great times as well as the good ones.
Absolutely. And it's just, you know, hopefully we'll come together. What other comments we have, my friend?
Let's see, in DC, if you're in DC, did you go yes, I was there last night. It's Black Lives Matter Plaza is where all the people are gathering. So we went there and observing it from a journalistic point of view. There was a whole bunch of signs on the wall congratulating the president-elect and the vice president-elect, as well as some not so kind stuff about the current occupant of the White House. There was a lot of singing and dancing and music playing and people gathering. Maybe some might have been a little too close. Others were, farther apart. But just to see that and to see that people were really celebrating was was very nice. And I think no matter what side you were on, it was great to see people coming together and feeling positive about the way that the election went from their point of view.
And I want to say, we're on this show, we're so politically correct, and we need to be politically correct because
That's right.
Because it's important, not because I'm afraid I'm going to lose a viewer or I'm afraid that people are going to be against the show because I give you my political view. No, because that's not our job.
Right.
If you want to know my political view, buy me a drink, okay, and I'll tell you my political view.
Mm-hmm.
But this show is not red or blue. This show is based on getting people back to work. So if you ask me, what's the tagline about checking in with Anthony and Glenn? I'll tell you the tagline is getting people back to work.
Yep.
If our podcast gets people back to work, then that's all I care about. And getting real information. When you get a guy like Chip Rogers, and before I say about Chip Rogers, I want you to give, because some people, like, we brought him on the show, he spoke, but some people really still to this day don't know what Chip Rogers' role is. So Glenn, if you could do me a favor,
Yes,
and tell everybody who Chip Rogers is and how relevant it is to have someone like him on a day like this on our podcast. He can be on CNN, he can be on Fox, he's on 1,000 of those shows every single day. He's on our show. And on Friday, we have the guy who's going on Biden's task force for Corona. So that's what's important about the show, because the more guests like that we have on, the quicker hopefully people get information, hopefully people get back to work. So just go about what Chip does for a living.
Yeah, I mean, obviously everybody knows what a lobbyist is, but it's much more than that. It's not just about knocking on a door and saying, hey, Senator, hey, congressional representative, do what we'd like you to do. He's been in this business for a lot of years. He's created a lot of strong relationships with governors, state senators. In fact, Chip was a state senator himself back in Georgia before moving into.
Was he really?
Yes. He had a couple of terms down there, and then he moved into this side of the business. I've known him for a really long time. He was CEO of the Asian American Hotel Owners Association, AHOA, as we know them, and they want to be called now. And then he moved into to this position. And since he's become president and CEO of the American Hotel and Lodging Association, replacing Catherine Lugar, he's really reinvented that organization, done some tremendous things about the organization, really helped hospitality.
So when you say
professionals.
reinvent, what does that mean?
They worked on the business model, on how they're going to actually attain profitability and be able to put together the needs of the hotelier organizations as well as the lobbying efforts, because they're much more than just lobbyists, Anthony. They've got educational components to them. And all sorts of different programs that are out there. We just speak to Chip a lot in his lobbying capacity because that is the most important right now. That is the most visible thing that they are doing right now. So really, they're about educating all the congressional representatives. I think when, come January, when the whole new crop of House of Representative freshmen and senators are there, he's going to have to go through the whole educational process of getting them to understand from ground zero what the travel and hospitality industry does, why hotels are important, why that business in your town, which is a hotel, why it's important that they are there, that they are hiring locals, that they are the focal point of your town. So he's out there doing all of those things in order to make sure that when hospitality needs come up, they already have an understanding and are receptive to listen.
And as we know, 60% of all hotels in America are basically owned by the Indian community. And now there's a vice president that is 50% Indian. So I would imagine they're a little excited about that, to maybe feel like they're getting represented.
I would hope so. I think it's just very exciting. I think it's great for the Black community, the women. I think it's great for the Indian American community, Caribbean American community, and honestly for all Americans. The fact that we have new people that are reaching such heights that have never been represented before, I think in the end could only be a good thing. And this has nothing to do with being a Republican or Democrat. I just think that as a country, the more differing views that we have, as long as we can listen to each other with respect, I think that is the best thing for all of us.
Last night, I think it was David, our producer, was telling us that his 8-year-old daughter was so excited.
Yes.
She doesn't know anything about politics. She just says, wow, that's a woman? A woman could be vice president?
Yep.
So it's just, listen, at the end of the day, there's a lot of people fighting for our country overseas, and we got to respect them by making sure that they have a place to come home to that represents them as Americans. And at the end of the day, I don't think our military gets enough credit And that's who we have to represent and respect. There's people walking around with post-traumatic stress disorder from going to so many tours, walking around with no limbs.
Right.
Some people aren't walking around. They're in wheelchairs, or some didn't make it home, or they made it home and then they passed away. So to me, every single time I see a negative tweet, every time I see somebody use just ridiculous language, I think about those people who are sitting in wheelchairs and have to listen to that nonsense.
Yeah, that's true. I think we could all do with a little bit more love, right?
So what are we going to go walk around Washington and do some videos and have some content, as everybody on our team tells us? We need more
We'll
content.
see. You've got to do some content upstairs for something else and all of that. Now, we have a couple of other things going on. If not today, then maybe tomorrow. Because tomorrow, Anthony, we're going to be coming live from Hotel Zena, also in Washington, D.C. We're going to get another perspective from a different part of town.
Oh, that's right. We can go that. We can do that tomorrow. Then.
Yeah, so no big deal.
So tell about Hotel Zena a little bit before we get there.
Brand new hotel from Viceroy Hotels. It's operating under
their Viceroy or Viceroy?
Viceroy.
Okay, you said Viceroy.
Yeah, I did. You're absolutely right. So thank you for correcting me. I've got a little bit
of. No, I wasn't correcting you. I thought I was saying it wrong.
No.
Because you're the journalist. You're the person that understands the English language. I'm the Brooklyn guy.
Every once in a while, I mispronounce something. So thank you for bringing that to all of our attentions out there. So we're going to be at the Viceroy Hotel tomorrow. I'm very much looking forward to that. And I believe that they're focused on great women in American history. You probably saw the RBG painting that we've featured on here when we had Bill Walsh, the CEO, up here. So tomorrow, we're going to really get to see that hotel, explore that hotel. And of course, right after this broadcast this afternoon, you'll get a tour of this hotel, the Riggs Hotel, along with their area general manager, Dieter Schmitz. That's going to be great. And then on Wednesday, Anthony, we're going to be up at Maryland Live Casino, owned and operated by the Cordish companies. And we're going to have the president of the entire gaming division for all of the different live casinos around the country.
Yeah, and I think it's important. Like, we've been talking a lot, obviously, a lot about our industry. But the reason we go out on the road is, one, for our own mental sanity, but also for us to actually show you what's happening.
That's right.
They are open and you can do it safely. And I'll tell you, since I've been here, I mean, they are safe. They have trained their employees, and people are wearing masks, and it's just phenomenal. But I don't feel like this is like the COVID trip. I just don't feel that. At this point, it's becoming normal, but I'm telling you, I miss having great drinks mixed by real mixologists, by real bartenders. I really miss staying in beautiful hotels. I miss having a great breakfast. So I have to go. One of the real things I've realized is the hospitality industry is not only part of my DNA, but I think if I bleed now, a hotel like business comes out of that blood, and I really didn't realize how much I missed it until I started doing it. The simple things, like even like I walked into the elevator. Where was it? Where was I at Live, or I can't remember. I walked in one of the hotels, and there was a Cintas dispenser in the elevator, so I can wash my hands. Like, I love that, but like, it didn't seem like, oh, it's COVID. It's just like, I don't like touching stuff, so I like that I had that right there. So I touched the button and I washed my hands.
Yeah.
So I feel very comfortable.
Yeah, I don't know about your room, but in my giant rig suite over there, I've got a Cintas hand sanitizing dispenser actually in my suite.
Well, you know what, Glenn? I'm just not as cool as you, bro.
I just had to throw that out there. That is what we call overcompensating people.
What's interesting is, because I've been so blessed to be in a position in the hospitality industry that people know my face, that I am blessed with getting beautiful rooms and people taking really good care of me. And I don't come to expect it, but it's just become really nice. Mm-hmm. And so when I walked in your room and I saw how big it was, I gotta be honest with you, for a second, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, but
no. It made me realize that I became a little bit of a spoiled brat.
I'm glad someone else realized it besides me. I will say you did get to enjoy the champagne that they gave for us, so that was lovely as well.
Absolutely.
All right, everyone. I do want to tell you that we have been masked up this entire time, but Anthony and I are very physically distant. Our guests on this trip are always going to be physically distanced from us, but we will try to be emotionally close.
Look at this mask. This is an Anthony Melchiori logoed mask. Look at this.
Yeah.
And if you want this, just find me on social media and I'll send you one for a donation for Hospitality Strong. So if you donate, I will send you Hospitality Success masks. And excellent. I might even sign one or two.
Ooh, I really like that. And I've got my fish donut mask here. I don't know where you could get it, but
And I also want to make a shout out to Colleen. Colleen, one of our
Mhm.
very frequent guests, and she's going through some challenging times right now.
yes.
And so she's not here as much as often as possible. But Colleen's been a big donator to Hospitality Strong for the hospitality industry. And Colleen, we wish you well, and I hope everything's going well for you. But when you're not here, it feels like we're missing one of our family members. So thank you. And also, of course, Maritza and Daniel, and thank you, and Michael. You guys are
Everybody.
here every day. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and let me just bring this up one more time. Glenn is important too, Anthony.
Maritza, you were my favorite fan. I'm sorry, you cannot. No longer will you be getting postings here on the show.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Please subscribe to our newsletter. Text the word hotel to 66866. That's hotel to 66866. Also, please like us on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, all of the usual suspects. Check out novacancynews.com for our full history of shows out there. Something we've done, I think, 138, 39 shows at this point, just since the COVID crisis started. But we've got hundreds and hundreds of shows beyond that. Go check out novacancynews.com. And while you're at it, be sure to check out Hospitality Success on Facebook, right, Anthony?
That's correct, sir. But before we do that, what I want you to do is
Yeah.
explain to the people who are coming on at our regularly scheduled time at 12, and we're going off the air, and they're all
That's
confused.
weird. I know. I'm sorry, everybody, but we did a special show with Chip Rogers. You could be able to watch that as soon as we end our broadcast. It'll automatically restart probably on whatever network you're watching it on, Facebook and LinkedIn. On YouTube, you might have to push the button to start yourself. But also, we will have a show we recorded earlier today, this afternoon. It was more important for us to get Chip on the air because it was so important. He wasn't available at the normal time. So we went a little bit earlier today in order to hear what he had to say. So thank you, guys.
So when you're watching the show back, and you went through half the show and you're realizing, why aren't they responding to my comments, is because we're live now, but we won't be live probably when you're watching the show. But it's worth a watch because Chip Rogers is amazing. And our our show that will be posted sometime today, maybe even Monday. I'm not sure when it's going to be posted.
Today's Monday.
Please, Tuesday. Please watch it.
Yeah.
Great stuff, and we'll be bringing more stuff from Washington D.C. and we'll be walking around the city of D.C. To show you what's going on, and hopefully most of those boards will be down.
Yeah, I hope so too. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. We'll be back live tomorrow at our normal time of noon. So remember, you've got one life, so blaze on.
Be kind to yourself.